Starting take two in 3, 2, 1, go! So, hey, Ronnie, have you ever had a really good debate in school, in class, with a student, or other students, in other words?
Oh, yes.
Yeah? I'll tell you, I had... the thing is that I have these debates every now and then in class. I like to spur debates. If you haven't already been able to tell, I do like to talk. I do like to throw points out at. But... you know what I can't stand? When somebody that cannot make a point, somebody that doesn't have any defense, they have nothing to say, they have nothing to combat what they're trying to defend themselves with by adding moot points, and also just making the fact that for instance, one of the students stated that I answered my own question, which I can't stand. I answered my own question when they were trying to defend their point. First off, answering my own question. We'll talk more about this. I want to go more into this right here. I want to see if you ever had this situation happen to you in class, because it bugs the heck out of me. All weekend it bugged me. It did. It really did bug me, because meanwhile, I'm putting out I'm throwing out great content. I'm making my points. I'm being informative, and then this comes along. So we'll go into that, more into that. But anyhow, welcome to Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net network. That is right, folks. Ronnie and I are back for yet another episode of the program, and we've got a great one for you. So you want to stay tuned. We're going to get into all of the good stuff. Ronnie is going to make it official. That is right, as we continue our trek to the 300th episode of the show. But before we get into everything, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, please check out www.vonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the great listeners, will be able to find more information regarding the Voices on the Net Network. Yeah, well, all you need to do is go up to the top of the website. You'll be clicking the About link at the top of the website. Will take you to a web page that will provide you everything you need to know pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network, and in thorough detail. Really a great page, a guide for those of you that say are new to the network and you don't know anything about it. Rather than Ronnie and or I explaining it to you, that page will give you what you need to know. You can also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, and they're all available on demand for and at your very own convenience, plus articles, my blog, a lot of content, all at www.vonthenet.com. All right, Ronnie, so I want to get into what I want to tell you and everybody, talking about the debates in class and so forth. But before we do that, before I get into that spiel, you have a job to do.
I'm in control.
Yeah, you have to reach into that envelope and make it official. So yet another episode of the show. What episode have we arrived at?
Episode 287.
287, 13 away from the next major milestone, 3 away from the next mini milestone. So we are approaching, of course, our 29th mini milestone, and our 300th episode is not too far off. Amazing.
Oh.
But we are here. We have to get through this episode first. 287. Thank you for making it official, Ronnie, and welcome back to the show. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope everything's well with you.
Yeah, do I look any older today, JJ?
Do you look any older? No, you look great. You look great. Why? You're supposed to, why? Did you have a rough weekend where it would shed some years off of your body, off of your life? What?
Yeah. I need to go outside more.
Oh.
No, but today is Ronnie's what?
Ronnie's birthday? Is it really your birthday?
There you go.
It's your birthday today? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't even know.
I was waiting to see how long it was going to take you to figure it out.
Oh, so you want to put me on the spot. I didn't even know it was your birthday today. Oh, happy birthday.
It is.
Happy birthday, Ronnie. You surprised me. So is that why you were quiet, because I didn't say happy birthday to you?
I was waiting.
All right, June 27th. That's right, a month before. Now, thanks, Ronnie. Thanks
You're
for putting me
welcome.
on the spot. Happy birthday, Ronnie. No, you look great as always.
Thank
Now
you.
you have to tell us how old you are.
No, I don't. It's
See,
unlisted.
You put me on the spot. Now you have to tell us how old you are. Wow. No, I apologize. No, I'm not great with birthdays, with ages. I'm horrible remembering people's birthdays. I've gotten criticism from friends and best friends for forgetting their birthdays, and if it weren't for Facebook, I'd forget everybody's birthday because I'm horrible. But you know I love you anyway, and happy birthday, and so forth. We'll have a great show. But yeah, I have to tell you, Ronnie, in class, do you ever notice when you're debating with people? And actually, let's get some background audio here because we usually do that. In class, you usually notice that you're going to get into a debate with a student, another student, or a teacher, either or, and you get to a point where you have great information. You've been, you're informative. You've been throwing out all the ammo you can in your debate, and you notice that the other person on the other side has reached a plateau. They can't go any further because you know that you've pretty much issued everything you have to issue, and they have nothing else to say, and they come back with something as moot as, you just answered your own question. It all started with, of course, a question, and then the debate ensues. You're answering a question because you're in class. That's the whole point of answering a discussion question or a capstone question or whatever it may be. You're placing examples, and the question was in economics, and I brought up my knowledge in audio and so forth, mixers, microphones, and so forth, and it seemed that another student wanted to know more about it. It made me believe that she wanted to learn more about microphones and mixers. Well, I used an example that, I had $500, my mixer's going, I know that, that everybody knows that, but I used the example that, for $500, I could either get a really good mixer, or I could get, seeing that I already have a microphone, and hypothetically, as I stated in an example before, I could get a microphone. Can't buy both because, $500 is only going to get me so much. Now, mixers are fairly expensive, and a microphone is going to be expensive. Or I could split them in half, say a microphone and a mixer, and get two cheaply, priced ones, which I would rather personally get a more durable mic and a cheaper mixer because you're speaking into the microphone, not the mixer. And the mixer's only going to do so much. So it led me to believe, because she says, I don't know anything about audio, but I know a lot about money, JJ. And she was saying, well, perhaps you should spend your money on a better mixer because your mixer is going. This is where it turned. This is where I got annoyed because, first off, it was hypothetical. Yet, I did mention my mix is going in. They don't know my mix is going, but I did say it. But I did mention hypothetically, and as an example, that I have $500. I wish I had $500, but again, hypothetically. Yet, we're going back and forth with the debate. I'm not going to go into what the debate ensued, but long story short, at the end of the debate, I knew that I had everything I needed to win the debate, whereas she came, or another student comes back, adds to the debate and says, she stated that I answered my own question. Then another student backs her up saying, I have to agree with the other student saying, you did answer your own question right there. Well, geez, if I were to point out every little grammatical mistake every one of you have made, or every little thing and so forth, just to add participation points for class, I'd have more posts than everybody at the college combined. So don't tell me that I've answered my own question or stated the obvious because I want to increase my participation points. I actually thought that you wanted to learn about audio equipment. Have you ever gotten into situations like that in school where you're in a debate and moot points are brought up, ridiculous points that shouldn't be involved in that debate, in other words.
Mm-hmm. What really annoys me is when they state, I don't care if you disagree with me, that's the point of a discussion.
Right.
Is to bring in all points. So disagree with me, I don't care. I'm going to support my format, and you can support yours. I have come across people that will state, well, whatever you say. Drives me nuts because, of course I've already said what I'm going to say. Now, come back, give me a rebuttal, something to fight with. Nothing. That, when that stalls and it comes to that point, it drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, it's
It'll bug me forever.
It's like I know I need it. First off, I know I need a new mixer deep down inside. It's my mixer. I've been using it for the past 4 years. I know I need a new mixer. Don't tell me I've answered my own question when I'm answering a school-related question to get credit for an assignment, okay? You don't need to tell me what I already know. So that's what you were doing. To win the debate, you wanted to tell me that that I answered my own question just to receive participation points, just to receive another point for your participation, your post. That's what it looked like to me. You're trying to glorify your post count by telling me something I already know.
Yeah,
I think that's ridiculous.
I disagree.
It bugged me all weekend when she said that. And then another student comes along and backs her up. So I'm like, okay, I'm going against a couple of people now. Fine, I'll take you both on. But seriously, I already know I need a new mixer. First off, if you look at... Everybody knows an article, a post, a story should be structured, a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the beginning of that post, I said an example. Example being the key word right there. Of me using $500 to buy a mixer and or a mic. I don't need a mic. I need a new mixer. It was a hypothetical question. So the point is, that should have been the giving point. I would think, right? It should have provided you with the key word.
Should
emphasis on the key word. I mean.
But I don't like. I like the types of discussions because usually your class is 25, 30 students start out with.
Right.
That it'll be you against everybody else on there because you're sticking with your guns. I stick with my guns. I go in there and I understand the question. I'll do the research on it and so forth and so forth. But then you have those that are followers. So whatever the instructor says, okay, I'll follow the instructor because you think it's going to get you a good grade. Well, no, I want to fight.
Right.
This is what I want to do. So I'll get into some big heated discussions and I'll actually turn some people around who actually, I guess it's not so bad. To sit there and take the opposite end of the spectrum instead of being on the horn with everybody else. Yeah. But you have those that stick together.
Right. And believe me, I kept going to the very end, Ronnie, and you know I would. I'm not going to give up. But I kept going to the very end, but the debate went on and on and on and on. All started with me answering a sample question in class. Let me get the question up here just to make it known. We were talking about the 10 principles of economics in the class Economics that was outlined in the first chapter of our text. And we had to prepare a 300-word response to the following question. How can each of the 10 principles be applied in an example or an experience with which you are familiar with? Me being familiar with audio equipment and so forth, I used that example. Sounds great up until this point, right? Absolutely. I'm doing it exactly as it's telling me to do. So I went into the very beginning, the very first principle of economics. Those of you that are either an economics major or you've taken economics as a class, you know what the first principle is. People face trade-offs in life. That's common knowledge. We all face trade-offs in life. To get something, more than likely you're going to have to what? Give something. It's the way it is in life. Regardless of whether it's money or love or emotion, whatever. It's just the way it is. So I talked about the mic and the mixer, and I added that as my example. And I quote, is what I stated here, as an example, I only have enough money to purchase a new mixer board I want. It's $500. However, there is a microphone that is $400. Clearly, I only have $500 to my name. Hypothetically, and I quote, at the time. So I can't buy both. That's $900 for the $500 mixer and the $400 mic. Don't have enough money, so I have to be able to allocate, my resources, correct, in order to maybe purchase either one or the other, or split them in half and buy a cheaper mixer and a cheaper mic. I know all of this. Then I mentioned that my mixer is going just because I'm in the audio and broadcasting industry, and I brought that up just as a statement, and I get responses from people, stating that I answered myself. Well, should I have maybe left out my mixers going? Maybe. I don't think so. I think I could add to the questions, answer the questions response, and still, get a response that isn't directed to me as I didn't want to say I was taking it as an insult, and I did that, but in a way I kind of felt undermined. I did, because I know how to answer a question. I do, and it just seems like they want to maybe glorify the post count, maybe glorify the fact that they want to add to their participation. Right. So they don't have anything to say, meaning I win the debate.
That's right, you won.
Because they... Yeah, I guess, and I was very, very kind. I was, I was kind, but I added a little bit of an attitude to it when I added my final post to it. When I said, thank you for your response. Glad I could be of assistance regarding this quote unquote answering my own question spiel. And I'm not necessarily taking it as an insult. However, I simply constructed an informative post from you that included the following, quote, I do not know a lot about what you are talking about, which is what one of the students brought up. This impelled me to submit a post based on me perceiving you wanted to learn a bit about mics and mixers because you had given your advice on which I should hypothetically purchase, of course, either one or the other. So I thought I would go into that. You know how I like to ramble on, but it just kind of caught me off guard. How's that?
The instructor didn't buzz in and give their point of view?
Not yet. Not
yet.
Not yet. No, we're done with the class anyway, so it's done. But it was towards the end of the class. But I wanted to go into that. We figure something out, what we're going to be talking about on the show. And I just wanted to see if you've had any of these encounters in class. I'm sure you have. In 4 years at college, I'm sure you're going to engulf in a lot of debates. And so
yeah. I'm the one that usually tends. I come in and take the low road. Somebody will ask a question or something. I'll have an opinion about it. Of course, my opinion will be usually the rough part of it. Let's just use immigration as a part of it.
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much knows where I stand on that issue. So you'll come into a class and everybody wants to be on the same side as the instructor. Well, I take the opposite point of view because, I'm just that way.
Yeah.
And to pull all of that out. And then you've got, sometimes I can, get this discussion really, really going. Other times it just kind of fizzles out. They want to argue. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to debate about nothing.
Right.
Don't add anything.
Well,
want to rock the boat. I rock the boat.
Well, I know you will. And this is, no names mentioned, but this was the response to one of my many responses to my original, and of course everybody else's that were involved with the debate, their responses too. This is what one of the individuals stated, and this is what really one of the many that ticked me off. I do have to agree with the other student, though, as well as sounding like you answered your own question, JJ. I know it was just an example, but since you did say there was some things going bad in your mixer, that you should probably invest in getting it fixed or buying a new one. What? Talk about stating the absolute obvious in that one. Honestly, this is college here. So my mixer's going. It's going on 4 years. You're going to tell me that you think I should buy a new mixer when I say my mixer is going. You don't think I know that I need a new one. I guess maybe I'm overreacting, overanalyzing this, but I felt a little undermined here. This is not middle school. This is college. I don't need to be told I need to do something when I already know I need to do it. And you're telling me I answered my own question because I added the fact that my mixer was going. Whereas at the beginning of the original response, I said, as an example. I used an example. And it's an example, and an example can be true or not. Be hypothetical or not. So, and I was clear in one of my posts, my responses, that it was hypothetical as well, just to put the cherry on top, just to ice the cake, just to let them know if you didn't get that from my original response that it was hypothetical. Now you know it's hypothetical. Now you know that even though my mixer's going, the $500 is not really in my pocket. If it were, I would have bought a mixer already. Jesus, excuse my language. Didn't mean to.
Yeah, it gets better, JJ. It really gets better.
Well, I'm sure it does, because when I go for my bachelor's, I'm going to be working with people. That should be fun.
Yeah, that's entertaining to say not.
Yeah. By the way,
not easy.
Happy birthday, dear.
Thank you.
All right, let's go into the associations on this 287th episode of Take Two, right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Ronnie's birthday episode, we're going to call this, as I feel so horrible that I forgot it was Ronnie's birthday. Yeah, I did. I forgot it was Ronnie's birthday, but Ronnie should not fast because I don't remember anybody's birthday. I don't remember my family members' birthdays, let alone best friends and so forth. So
shame on you.
Don't take it as an insult because it's just how it is. I remember a lot of other things, but not birthdays. It's just bad. If it weren't for Facebook, and I think a lot of people can attest to this, Facebook does, admit it, folks, Facebook does help you out when remembering certain people's birthdays. That if it weren't for Facebook, you wouldn't remember people's birthdays, many people's birthdays. People that you may have encountered along the way. You don't necessarily know that much, but you know them enough to wish them a happy birthday. You wouldn't know it was their birthday unless it was for Facebook. So I think a lot of people could attest to that. All right, let's go into actually before we get into the associations part of the show. That is right, Ronnie and I, we pick things out of the air that are associated with each episode number. In this case, episode 287. We're going to associate Thangs with this 287th episode of the show, for those of you that are new to the program. But before we do that, I think Ronnie knows what time it is, too. What time is it, Ronnie?
It's time for our sponsor.
Time to thank our sponsor. That is right. This portion of the 287th episode of Take Two is brought to you by none other than Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. Now listen up, folks, because Ronnie and I have an awesome deal for each and every one of you, and you don't have to spend a single dime. Nope. With over 85,000 audiobooks to choose from at Audible, we're going to give you one free audiobook and a 14-day free trial to browse over, 85,000 titles. That's pretty darn awesome if you ask me. Get 14 days to be able to choose out of the 85,000 a free audiobook. No risk whatsoever, no risk involved. You don't have to spend a dime. And you have 14 days to decide whether you want to pay for the service or not. If you don't, cancel it and you won't be charged. In order to take advantage of this great offer, all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/take2. That is audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this brilliant, brilliant offer. You'll be glad you did, I'm pretty sure. Even if you're not an avid reader, folks, even if you're not, more than likely you enjoy watching TV, right? You enjoy watching movies. Say you don't even enjoy watching anything. Say you enjoy listening. More than likely you're listening to this show. You enjoy listening to radio shows, podcasts, etc. The auditory experience. You may pick up a magazine or a book every now and then. Well, transition over to the auditory experience for once and see how you like it. I think you'll be surprised. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of one free audiobook and a 14-day free trial. You will be glad you did. Now support the Voices on the Net Network and the Take Two program. You know you wanna. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. Thank you, Audible, for your support. All right, Ronnie, let's get into some associations on Ronnie's birthday episode. For those of you that just tuned in, wish her a happy birthday because I did not until she told me it was her birthday. All right, Ronnie, get into what you've got for us. I know you've got a great association for us now, don't you?
Gabrielle, who happens to be, how many blogs do you read or associate with? I mean, this is a Salted Lithium blog. She has numbers. I mean, she had a lot of people on there because of the depression and bipolar and her son that she has. I mean, she talks about him all the time. Every day she's writing a huge, 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 huge amount of information on there. Mm-hmm. One person actually sat down and in 3 days read 287 blogs.
Yeah. How many?
287 blogs.
287 blog posts.
No, they read on hers on a lithium site. It's called Salted Lithium.
Right.
That they read all of her blogs in 3 days, which she had only at the time had a total of 287.
287 blogs. Now, I have this in front of me here that somebody read 287 of her blog posts in 3 days. That's what you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. plus a video of her son.
Yes, she has one of her sons.
On the eve of his baptism, correct?
She also, I followed her there for a while because we studied this in nursing school. That she was always out there writing, but she just isn't also just on this post. She does it in her local newspaper. Hopefully it's still in operation, but I know it was at that time when it was introduced into school.
Wow. And when it comes to blog posts, when it comes to blogs and so forth, and you would wonder why anybody would, and I guess this is something that you could say because with no comments, I don't think nobody commented, but they did they did view. You can view it with analytics software and statistics software to find out if somebody's reading your blog or viewing your website. You follow. I mean, it could give you IP address. You could find out if the same person is viewing your website or viewing your blog. And that's exactly what happened here. You would wonder, nobody would want to complain about that because you're getting free exposure. Somebody's reading, nobody's commenting, but they're reading your blog. They're reading, they're reading. And you can also check based on the amount of time somebody spends on a website to notice whether they're actually reading or if they're just maybe stopping by. Usually if you're using analytical software or website statistics software, if your web server will probably have this information available to you. But if it usually goes from 0 seconds to 30 seconds, maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes, 2 minutes to 5 minutes, 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 30 minutes. If you see a bunch of hits that are within 0 to 30 seconds, they could be spiders that are crawling your website or just people that maybe clicked a link from another site, checked out your site, they decided, this isn't for me. You usually look for those that are above 30 seconds to see if people are actually reading your pages. And it's based on pages, too, and looks to me that based on this association, this individual saw that somebody was reading 287 different blog posts on the website. Because you would be able to tell how long you would be reading each blog post and so forth. If it were only 30 seconds, you'd say, all right, well, how much are they going to how long are they spending on the website? How much are they reading? If it's only say 30 seconds, there's 1,000 words here. They're definitely not going to be. It states there are 1,000 words here for one of them. And 1,000 words per post. They're not going to be reading that much within 30 seconds unless they're a speed reader.
Yeah, well, if they're a speed reader, I couldn't do that. I know, but also, doesn't it tell you like if you go to our site, what is that? Is it the same thing, the same type of program that uses it to see how long you've been on the site to determine the hits?
What's up?
When someone would go to such as our network site, is it the same program being used?
Well, there are different ones. There are different. Pieces of software you could use. Google Analytics is a popular one that allows you to check the statistics of a website. Like I said, your server might have built-in statistics software, which typically they're not as great as, say, Google Analytics. Google Analytics is really the leader in terms of statistics software. People just it's a simple code you add to the header of your website, and you get statistic information for all of the pages on your site from Google Analytics. But you can use the one that's associated with your server if you don't even want to utilize Google Analytics. Although, if you're going to be selling ads, and so forth on your website, it's probably smart to install Google Analytics. It's that good. The network uses Google Analytics. I could tell you that. It's definitely a prominent app. It is. It's a great application. It does what it states it's going to do. All right, thank you for your association. I've got one for those of you tuned in right now. We know US 287 as a popular route in the United States of America, right down in Fort Worth, Texas. Unfortunately, and when you find out, and I could tell you one route in New Jersey, Route 80 is another one, as well as Route 22. That sees a lot of car crashes and, unfortunately, crashes that lead to deaths. Well, there was a driver that didn't make it on US 287 who died Saturday morning as he was thrown, get this, 180 feet, landed in a tree in Fort Worth, Texas. Imagine that. Usually you hear of somebody getting into an accident, and they fly out their window 30 feet. But 180 feet, you imagine how quick they were going. Now, down in Texas, I believe there's a speed limit of 80 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour. I know it's faster than in New Jersey. Noticeably faster in New Jersey, the speed limit down in Texas. So if the speed limit's 80 miles an hour, you can guarantee that person was going at least 10 miles over. So if you're going 90 miles an hour and you slam into a car, you're gonna go flying. And he didn't make it, clearly. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. As a driver did die. And one vehicle wreck, US 287. So clearly he didn't hit another car. But what did he hit? It stated that the crash happened at about 8:30 a.m. as the driver was heading northbound in the 2200 block of US 287. The vehicle swerved off the road, here we go, and went over the guardrail and down an embankment before rolling several times and striking a tree. I guess upon that he struck a tree, must have hit another tree going 180 feet. That's a far distance. But either or, very sad news right there.
I noticed that when I was searching for the associations with this number. A lot of accidents happen. I mean, this is almost an unlucky number for that interstates because all over the place, it was always a 287 exit or it was a standpoint and always an accident.
It's so sad. Because as somebody living in New Jersey, Route 22 is another highway that really, really is known for accidents. Very dangerous. If you don't know how to drive, people usually stay away from Route 22 because of how just the bends and the amount of traffic, and it's very congested, and people drive quick, and it's hectic, it's chaotic, but
they're always waving at you.
Yeah, they give you a Flippy the Bird every now and then. All right, well, Ronnie, give us some funny laws. I know you've got one or two over there for us before heading into your stamp of reparation.
Yes, I do. In Utah, no one may have sex in the back of an ambulance if it is responding to an emergency call. That is Code 32A-12-287.
So getting freaky in the back of an ambulance.
Yeah,
interesting.
Not on an emergency call, but I guess any other time is just fine.
I see. So in other words, you're trying to save a heart attack patient, somebody that just suffered a heart attack. You go to pick them up, and you're getting freaky in the back of an ambulance. Well, that ain't going to happen because there's a law saying you can't do that.
Now there's a law that says you can't do it.
No. But I guess you could try. Then again, this is a law. It doesn't mean people are going to follow it. But then again, that's kind of an odd place to make love with somebody in the back of a... How? Why do I say make love? Have sex with somebody in the back? No, do it in the back of an ambulance. Wow.
Ambulance have the least amount of shocks on them, so it'd be very easy.
Yeah, well, you could do a lot of kinky stuff in the back of an ambulance. I can tell you that. A lot of needles.
Yeah, you get the oxygen, you got the rub. Yeah, okay, never mind. Anyway, my second one.
Yeah, that's enough with that. Hey, what about another one? You have another one over there?
Yes, it comes from Kansas City, Missouri. Installation of bathtubs with 4 legs that even remotely resemble animal paws are strictly prohibited.
Wait, what? Go over that again.
Okay. Installation of bathtubs.
Installation of bathtubs. All right, got that part.
4 legs that resemble paws of any animal is strictly prohibited.
Okay.
Section 4, 287. Now, are you going to tell me that because somebody has a paw? I mean, the old-time bathtubs have the paw legs.
Okay.
So, I mean, they could resemble anything you want it to resemble. Why? And not to mention, Missouri is also a hunting state.
Some people are just more exotic than others. I guess people just don't want a plain bathtub. That's all.
Porcelain.
That's all it is, I guess. People are going to hunt. They're going to use wolf paws as underneath their bathtub. Then, to each their own, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess you could do that while you're having sex in the back of the ambulance.
I guess so. Apparently so. All right, Ronnie, we're going to get into your stamp of reparation right now. You've got a few minutes to give us what you've got. So you've got the mic.
I have a strange one, and this just ticks me off. This is why tort laws really need to be revamped, because we have a woman, 50-year-old Robin Correnti. Now, I don't know if she is 50 years old now, or was she 50 years old back in 2008 when she did such a stupid stunt. Now, I wear bikini tops, bikini bottoms. I wear all kinds of things. I even wear jewelry if I'm laying out in the sun. Not once have I gotten third-degree burns from my jewelry or underwire or anything like this. But this woman just clearly states that she laid out into the sun in her underwear in a 90-degree weather, clue, and received, so she states, third-degree burns. I think she needs to figure out what third-degree burns is before she starts claiming that she received them, because she says she goes to the doctor. Get this. Goes to the hospital. The doctor has moved what she considers a chunk of flesh. You would think a chunk, ooh, big. No, it was the size of a dime. From what she claimed that came from her underwire bra from laying out in the sun. I got a better idea. You're 50. I wouldn't be doing that at all. No. Underwire, come on. How many women are out there that every single day bathing, going swimming, have their jewelry on and are not burned with actual real jewelry on and not, an underwire anywhere else? This is why the tort law needs to be revamped, because people like this can go back, 2008? This is 2011. 11, folks. And now she decides, you know what? I think I have a case. I want to sue. That's where our taxes end up getting increased for these court costs, because we can't afford any more of these things that are going out there. She's going to sue the bikini maker. How about she just sue? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe more like on the fact that she fell asleep and forgot that she was outside and got burned. But third-degree burns, you're telling me just right here? And it should have been all over. She fell asleep in 90-degree weather, don't you think? Or is she just too embarrassed to admit it, that she actually just fell asleep?
It's punishment for being outdoors too long, lady. Come on now.
Yeah.
You know that. Common sense. Don't spend too much time in the sun and you won't...
Blisters?
You won't get blisters on this. I think, I remember back last 2 summers ago, maybe 1 or 2 summers ago, spent a little too much time out in the sun, and I would get sun blisters, and not going to blame my bathing suit manufacturer because I sat in the sun too long. Oh, yeah. I guess people will find ways to make money in any way, shape, or form.
Do it.
They want to. They figure, you know what? Maybe I could get away with this. Really, it's probably not going to work in your favor, honey. I don't think.
No, and why wait 3 years to do this? Is it a bill she could
That's
afford?
the other
Or
thing, yeah.
Some other problem? Because, I wear jewelry, a lot of jewelry. I have yet to be burned.
Yeah, supposedly it occurs back.
I put oil in my body and then I get burned. But, I don't fall asleep in the sun all that much either.
Right. Crazy. Well, thank you for your stamp of reparation, Ronnie. As always, we appreciate what you have to say. We do have to head to the break on this 287th episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. But we have quite a bit that we're going to be talking about during the second segment. Let me give you a little bit of a tease what we're going to be going into. One of the items we're going to be talking about, professionals and experts. Do you call yourself a professional? If you think about it, do you call yourself a professional with whatever it is you do? Do you call yourself an expert? The fact of the matter is, what is the difference between the two here? If you call yourself, say, a professional because you know a lot about something, would you be considered an expert and not a professional? Many people say, well, in order to be a professional, you need to be able to make money and so forth with whatever it is you're doing. Yet people that may just be smart at something, maybe know what they're doing, whether they're a computer technician or they're just smart with computers. They may not necessarily be making money, but they can build a computer. They could take it apart and build it, and so forth. They call themselves a professional computer technician. Would they be an expert computer technician? We're going to go into the two different definitions here, the two terms, the definitions of both of them. See what Ronnie has to say here. There's an interesting article that we're going to be basing it off of. We're going to base it off of an article on, I believe the website is techrepublic.com. We're going to base it off of a great article there. So we'll talk about that as well as this here, folks. Why do we remember some things better than others? Well, perhaps emotion plays a bit into that, maybe. Well, is it random, maybe? Yeah. What about our short-term versus our long-term memory? Why do we remember certain things? Say you go back to September 11th, 2001. Probably remember where you were when the planes hit, right? I would think. What about the day before or a couple of days before? Say the day after. Do you remember what you did at that same time? Probably not. Why? Because, you placed emotional stature on that moment. We're going to talk about that as well as your blast from the past. You don't want to go anywhere. So much coming up on this 287th episode of the show. Ronnie and I return right after the break, so stay tuned, ladies and gents. we're back. That is right. Ronnie and I have returned for the second segment of this 287th episode of the show right here on the one and only Voices on the Net Network. Thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules to join us. We greatly appreciate it, and we have quite a bit to talk about. We're going to get into all of the good stuff. That is right. We're going to be talking about, well, professionals versus experts. What's the difference? You know? What about this other item we're going to be talking about? Why do we remember certain things better than others? Do they place, say, emotional emphasis on certain parts of our lives when it comes to remembering certain days, whether it's a day that involves a tragedy, maybe, a birthday or a holiday, something that occurred on these days, certain emphasis on days that may mean something to you. I'm going to talk about that. I want to go into that. Also, your blast from the past coming up at the end of the program, so quite a bit. You don't want to go anywhere. Let your friends and family know that quite a bit of content is coming up on this show. But before we get into everything, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind as the great listeners, please visit www.theonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the listeners, will be able to find more information regarding the Voices on the Net Network. Yeah, all you need to do in order to find out the information you need to know in order to educate yourself about what's going on this network. You go to the About link at the top of the website, you click it, and it will take you to a web page providing you everything you need to know about this network. You could also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, and they're all available on the website on demand for at your very own convenience. Among other things, articles, my blog, it's all at www.theonthenet.com. Hey, welcome back, Ronnie.
Thank you, JJ.
Yeah.
You too.
We have a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any time. Let's get into the first item on the itinerary. And this here, I think a lot of people actually misdefine both terms, whether it's professional or an expert. And really, I've come across a lot of people that will call themselves a professional, whether they're a professional writer, as they state, professional audio engineer, professional voiceover artist. However, they're not making any money. Or you may come across somebody that says, well, yeah, I'm an expert in this specific industry. I'm an expert in writing. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I'm an expert in, say, voiceovers. I've been doing it over 20 years. There's the difference between a professional and an expert in terms of the stranglehold you have on whatever it is you say knowledgeable in. Say you've been doing something for an extended period of time. You're an expert. If you're, say, working as that, whatever you're an expert in, for money, say somebody's paying you, you're a professional. But do you necessarily have to be an expert to be a professional? That's, I think, the line that's drawn between the two there, because somebody can have the money, start a company, but they have very minimal experience in whatever it is they're doing. They just got into the industry because they want to make money, because there's a lot of money in that industry. So they have the money, or they took out a loan or whatever. They started whatever it is. They started a business, and now they're considered a professional because they're making money. They may not be an expert, whatever it is they're doing, so they hire people that are experts. You understand where I'm going with this? The difference between the professional and the expert. And there's a great article in techrepublic.com that talks about 10 things that define a true expert. Ronnie and I are going to go into a few of these here, but I want to hear your opening statements here. And really, if you've come across people that have called themselves a professional, or say people that have called themselves an expert, in other words, and where do you stand on this subject, on this topic?
Well, for me, when I was reading this article and from my own experience, a professional is basically how they act. That involves, for me, integrity, honesty, responsibility, all of that. That is being a professional. Be in your game. That's just not in your work life. That's also in your private life. That is the professional in you. And then when you talk about an expert, it's a number of years. For instance, if you had to go to the doctor, would you want to see someone who is 25 years old, or would you want to see somebody who's 50 or 60 years old? Because you would consider age to be more of an expert, or the time and grade that you've served in a specific profession. Like if that even when you go to court, if you put a witness on the stand, they have to be verified that they are an expert, and it's based on the number of years that they've served. How much college do they have? That makes them an expert, as they say. But a professional, that is different. You could be a professional in anything that you're out there that you can do without actually holding that college diploma, without actually holding a number of years in there because of your knowledge. But also your professional is how you act towards your customers. Your customers are your foundation, your baseline. Regardless, without them, you have no business no matter what it is.
Right.
So professionalism comes first.
Absolutely. There's that line drawn there when you have a sense of professionalism towards the customer, because they're the ones that are supporting you. They're the ones that are giving you their money. They're the ones that are paying you. And they're depending on you to do a service, whether you're a writer, whether you're a painter, whether you're a landscaper, whatever. They're depending on you. So how you act and the money that you receive gives you that professional title, in other words. And this is where it gets very confusing, because people that call themselves, so they've been in an industry for, say, 10, 20 years, they consider themselves a professional. Well, very much so. If you've been doing whatever it is you're doing for 20 years, more than likely you're making money with whatever it is you're doing. But you also call yourself an expert because you've ran through the highs and the lows within that 10 to 20 year period with whatever it is you're doing. You have the right to call yourself an expert, because an expert, and we've talked about what it takes to become an expert on the show way back. We talked about how many hours it takes to say, reach expert status. I think we went into the safe number was 10,000 hours, and how many hours it takes to become an expert. Just to add a safe number behind it, how many hours do you have to spend making mistakes within the industry you're involved with? How many times do you have to learn how to be professional within the industry you're involved with before you can call yourself an expert? You can become you can be a professional. You can be professional. You can be polite to your customers. You can be you could be the individual. You're going to be a professional individual in the field you're in. But in order to consider yourself an expert, that takes time. That's not something that you can buy. That's something that you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn from your mistakes. You're going to have to take that initiative. You're going to have to move in a direction that requires you to make mistakes, to learn from those mistakes, and so forth, in order to call yourself an expert. But you can call yourself a professional if you decide to create a business. You're making money off of it. You have a professional personality. That plays a role in it as well. But the latter, that takes a bit more work.
Plus, it depends on how your friends, your peers, how the peers view you as far as an expert, because those within your same field are studying the same issues, meeting the same problems, trying to find alternative means and to make the industry better, to what it's in. But most of the time, your experts are viewed solely by their peers, so their peers weigh in on whether or not they're an expert or not.
Yeah, to a point. I don't necessarily agree with that, though, because somebody that's an expert, somebody that's spent, say, 10,000 hours, whether they're, I'll use an example for which I know a lot about, whether it's computers or audio or writing. I've spent 12 years writing nonstop, thousands and thousands of articles right there. I've received criticism and I've received reviews from other people. But I got to that point maybe by receiving the criticism and taking that criticism and utilizing the criticism to better maybe my writing. But I'm the one that learned from my mistakes in my writing. I'm the one that took what I received from, say, the mistakes in my writing, or from reviewing, or from writing a poor article based on my opinion that didn't, say, include a lot of fact. I researched further whatever it is I was writing about, and I then whatever it was I wrote about, I would then take the initiative myself and focus on how to better myself, to be a better writer. And same in the voiceover industry, there are certain things that I'll notice just by listening to a certain voiceover, if I or a commercial or a promo, I'll listen to it. Surely I'll receive constructive criticism, and other ears are always going to help you. But I solely believe it's the individual that's going to either want it or not. You can't have somebody else simply step up to the plate and say, listen, you're going to become an expert. You're going to want to do this. You're going to want to do that. Okay, you could take that criticism. You could take that advice. Great. But it's you that's going to act on it. There's a difference between simply saying you're going to do something and actually doing it. A huge difference right there. I've heard so many times from people saying they're going to do something and they don't do anything. They'd simply just say they're going to act. That could be used as a motivator, absolutely. You could say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You could plot it out in your mind. You could write it down on paper, but you have to do it. And it takes doing it, taking the initiative before you can even consider calling yourself an expert. You can have everybody around you say, oh, yeah, he helped me through a lot. Oh, yeah, this guy's smart. He's a genius. He's an expert. Doesn't mean you are one just because other people say you are. You may maybe get a better reputation if somebody else says, "Oh yeah, this guy is definitely reputable." You received, you received advice. You received a recommendation from somebody else. Definitely helps you out. Doesn't mean you're necessarily an expert though. Just because somebody called you one. It's like these actors in Hollywood that only get into the spotlight because they have somebody involved in the acting industry that's a family member, or their father and their mother's involved in the acting industry. So you're telling me just because the mother and the father are an actor and an actress, that son or that daughter is going to automatically be pushed to the front of the line and be called an actor or an actress? Doesn't mean they have talent. Doesn't mean they're an expert. Yeah, their father or their mother are. Doesn't mean the kid is. They have to work at it. Everybody can consider them one because of their the defining characteristics that surround that person, that kid, because of their mother and father and whoever else is involved in the industry. Doesn't mean that they're exactly one, though.
No, but some people wonder if it, kind of goes through the genes through osmosis. But also with an expert, because your peers they can make or break you. Let's just state that you're in the scientific community, that you come up with something that is off the wall charts. Remember DNA before it became DNA, acceptable as it is today. Off the wall stuff that the peers did not accept. So they became they're scrutinized as expert in the scientific industry, and then years later, all of a sudden, bam, it's now accepted. They're long and forgotten. Now the new people that have come forward that proved DNA to be acceptable in the industry they're considered, quote, quote, the top experts in their field, even though they didn't do anything different versus the first person who tried to introduce DNA into the scientific community. It's just a matter of how they were weighed against the day, the era, the people around them, and of course how the peers did view them. I mean, that's how some of what those in the scientific community are brought before as an expert is based on the make or break of what other people are thinking of them and how they utilized their own profession, their own thought processes. Did they go out and they write the theses? Did they go out to the colleges? I mean, you have some that are college professors that never served one day in the industry, went from being in college to boom, now they're a teacher. But yet they never worked actually in the field.
Do you really want, all right, I'll give you an example here. If you were to go to a doctor because, say, 3 of your friends recommend that doctor, they're a great doctor, but deep down inside they only have 3 years experience under their belt. You're telling me You're still going to go to that doctor knowing they have 3 years experience even though your friends recommended them because they went to them? That's going to be very tricky. Just because your friends recommended that doctor to you, they only have 3 years experience. I would take somebody that has 20 years experience, but no friend recommendations over a doctor that has 3 years experience, but friend recommendations, just because they had a good experience with them. Now, I'm not doubting that doctor's abilities to do his or her job as a doctor. I'm not doubting, but they have to prove to me that they have what it takes by putting in their time card. They have to, for me. And I think that's where we're losing the difference between perception and actually calling yourself an expert because you've worked at it. And you brought up the great point before how people are saying, all right, yeah, this one's an expert. This one's an expert. This one's an expert. And that's the clarifying factor from people that are saying, yeah, this one's an expert, so now this person's an expert. They have a couple of years experience within whatever they're doing. And it just so happens that, yeah, they had a jump start within the 2 years because they worked at it. They maybe have a God-given talent within whatever industry they're involved with. And within the 2 years, it would have taken somebody else 10 years to do the same amount of work. 10 years I would consider more an expert than somebody involved within 2 years of whatever industry they're involved with. But they just they have the knowledge within them, so their friends say, oh yeah, this one is definitely, or somebody else, critics, whoever, state that this one's an expert over somebody that would take 10 years to do so. If that's the defining factor, I'd rather have it the other way. Just because somebody says you're an expert or somebody else is an expert, I'd rather somebody prove it rather than them using. Great people are recommending this individual to other people. Great that they're receiving positive reviews with whatever it is they're doing. But that's only what those individuals have experienced from that individual, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a barber, whether it's a writer, whatever. Regardless, they have to put their time card in. And I'm going to place that ahead of what other people think in terms of becoming an expert or calling themselves an expert. And I go back to what we talked about, the amount of hours it takes. The amount of hours it takes to become an expert. We use the 10,000 hours we use right now, the safe number. If it's 9,999 hours, you need to go the extra distance to call yourself an expert. There's that definition right there, that definition, and calling you an expert. It's professional, totally another discussion. But an expert, you need to put your time in to be called one. That's just how it is, because you want to know whatever you're getting in terms of a service or a good, that it's going to be worth it, because you know the individual that maybe is conducting that service, the individual that created that product, it's going to be good. You know that they know what they're doing because they have the time backing them up, not necessarily opinion from other people.
Well, I'm not supposed to just talk about the opinion, as your neighbor or anything like that, but those that are within the same industry tend to determine who is going to be an expert within their field. They tend to hold that person, someone in their community, in their particular profession, as higher, or someone that they would go to as an expert mode, not necessarily a teacher, not necessarily a professor, but somebody that's inside of a certain profession. Let's just use, like I use the scientific community. Okay. Those within the scientific community then tend to weigh the differences between the profession and those that are considered experts within their own industry that they put out there. Not necessarily your friends, your neighbors suggesting anybody, but those within your own industry tend to also dictate as to who that person that they go to is deemed the expert, because just because you're in a specific
why
field
are they perceiving
doesn't make you that an expert until you get to be noted as that. Let's just say a doctor tells you, okay, I need you to go see this person, their profession in their area. They have studied in their field for a number of years. They're their experts, not just like a general doctor,
you
but
just
more
backed
those
my point. Thank
you. And went to a specialized school and can further their training. But it's done within that community, that profession itself.
But you just backed my opinion by saying they have adequate time behind them. They have the amount of time backing them to be called an expert. The other people within the industry, they're calling them an expert because they trust their opinion. They trust what they're going to be doing because of the amount of time backing them. That the individuals within that industry aren't only backing that quote-unquote expert because they simply say, or they simply like the color of the coat, or the size of the jib, or their haircut, or whatever. They're calling them an expert because they have time backing them, which I go back to.
But I've seen people with lots of years behind them and not to be considered an expert within their field.
Why? Because other people don't perceive them an expert?
Yeah, either their ideas are out there wacky, that are not supported by the community that they were in, not the community that they live in, but the community of the profession that they're in is not acceptable, that they have not, some haven't even had any peer review of any of their work that's out there, but they put it out there, and those with scientific community will go out there and say, well, they're just kind of a nut job. They're out there. They put these types of responses out there to certain conditions, like we have global warming like that. Would they call themselves an expert? Or would you go, that's so they could have a lot of years and still those within your own community can say, they're not really an expert. We don't really support them.
Well, you're going to have those that are, that just happen to, they just happen to to be irrational with whatever it is they're doing, no matter what industry you're in. People that may have 25 years experience with whatever it is they're doing, there are going to be people that simply just maybe whatever they've retained, and I find it hard to believe even within that 25-year period of expertise, because I would consider somebody that has 25 years, you would think that they would have learned something, but they're making irrational statements, they're making irrational, they're doing things that irrationally, in other words. They're not basically abiding by what they learned over the last 25 years, whether through experience, whether through reading books, whether through talking to other people, whether through learning from their mistakes. They're still living in the past. That's going to happen right there. But I can tell you that somebody that has 20 or 25 years experience within an industry, you're going to easily break the 10,000 hour mark right there to call yourself an expert, because you've learned through you've learned through a lot. It's just like anything else. If you were, say, a police officer for 20 years, Ronnie, you would clearly have a stranglehold on just how to be a police officer, right? The 20 years experience versus somebody that has, say, 2 years experience.
Right. Clearly,
there's going to be somebody within that industry that has 20 years experience that maybe has a mental disorder, or they have some type of psychological disorder. And with that 20 years experience, they can't comprehend the fact that they've actually went through the reins to become an expert, but people aren't going to perceive them as one because of their mental disorder. And that goes back to those within the scientific industry that are considered quacky, or people that are wacky, because they may have a mental disorder, or they are just simply irrational. But I would take easily, if you're playing the odds game here, I would take those that have 25 years experience over somebody with 2 years experience if I had to risk somebody being wacky. Easily, 100%. Because I'm going to weigh my options here. Somebody that, and I think you don't have to be irrational here, Ronnie. You would attest to this as well. You would rather go to a doctor that has 20 years experience versus a doctor that only has 2 or 3 years experience, if you had to risk whether they were wacky or not. You don't know before you even go to them, but you're going to make a decision based on their years of expertise. I mean, right?
Right.
I would think. I that's what I would do. Would those of you listening do the same thing, or would you just go based on our recommendation, regardless of the year's experience? I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do my research. I don't want some yam yakking away at my thigh. 2 years experience. They're a surgeon, whereas I can go to somebody else that's maybe 10 miles down the road that has 20 years experience. I'm just weighing my options here. But it just goes to show you that the difference between professionalism and an expert is quite different. And to become an expert, while there are wacky people within that industry that are considered experts, those that place their time card, or place basically put their time in, they're going to obviously have an advantage in terms of whatever it is they're doing, because they've put the amount of time within the industry they're involved with. They've learned from their mistakes. They've talked to thousands of people. They've done this. They've done that. They have what it takes to basically make decisions without looking anything up, or very limited things up, because they know oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember the conference I went to 5 years ago. Somebody with 2 years experience can't say that because they've not been in the industry for 5 years, only 2 years. So they can't go back to a 5 year ago conference. So it just... there are things there are factors that do play, a role within
But the continued education is the big part of it. Just because you might have somebody that's in there that's been in a profession for 20 years, are they up to date on the times? Are they up to date on the changes, the new advancements, the new technologies? That also has to equate, whether or not they are.
And really going into this, the Tech Republic article, the 10 things that define a true professional. Ronnie and I went into, without even going into the 10 on that website, we went into at least half of them without even giving you any of the points in this article. I'll give you just a few of these here that we really talked about. Number 1, put customer satisfaction first. Check. Went into that right there. 3, do more than expected. Check. We went into that one there. 5, communicate effectively. Well, check to a point. We went into praise your peers, not yourself. How about sharing your knowledge? Let's see. We have follow exceptional guideline principles or guiding principles when you're focusing on what you've learned in the past to become an expert, and how to utilize what it is you learned, the principles you learned in the past. Would you rather take somebody that has 2 years experience learning the principles from the past? Yeah. Say, with the start of their 2-year career. How's that? They learned whatever it was, the principles. Fine. They have a guy, maybe a grasp on whatever it is they learned. However, the individual that's in that same industry with 20 years experience has that same grasp plus 18 more years experience than that person with 2 years. And that plays a massive role in calling yourself an expert. Not saying the person with 2 years experience doesn't know what they're talking about. They have to prove themselves. It's important to do that. And time is of the essence. Time is a major defining factor when it comes to calling yourself an expert. All right. We do have to move into the next item on the itinerary. We're going to be talking about why do we remember some things better than others? Emotion, is it random? What about the short-term memory versus the long-term memory? So we're going to go into that a bit before heading into your blast from the past. We're going to go into that and then your blast from the past. But before we get into both of those items, I would like to thank our sponsor. That is right, this portion of the 287th episode of Take Two, right here on the Voices on the Net Network, is brought to you by none other than Audible.com. And we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. Now listen up, ladies and gentlemen, because Ronnie and I have an awesome deal for each and every one of you. You don't even have to spend a dime. No risk whatsoever involved. We'll give you 1 free audiobook and a 14-day, a 2-week free trial to browse the 85,000 audiobooks offered at Audible. Quite a bit. Always adding great audiobooks to their service. Really the premier service on the web right there. Not much competition, if any, yet. And I'll tell you, they really live up to their name. But in order to take advantage of your free audiobook and the 14-day free trial, all you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/take2. That is right, audibletrial.com/take2. You'll be glad you did. Even if you're not an avid reader, more than likely you enjoy watching TV or movies, listening to music or your favorite radio shows or podcasts. The auditory experience versus the visual one, rather than traditionally picking up a book and reading it or a magazine. You're listening. You're putting headphones on. You're listening via speakers, and you're listening to somebody read to you. Retaining the information, some people would say that they retain information better by listening to somebody rather than reading. In some cases, many of you may actually read out loud when you're reading an article or a book. Same case here. I think you'll enjoy it. You might as well try it out. 1 free audiobook and a 14-day free trial. All you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/take2. You'll be glad you did. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. All right, Ronnie, let's head into the next item on the itinerary. That is right, this is the episode that happens to include, a special occasion. It is Ronnie's birthday, and we all wish her a happy birthday. As I'm kind of playing catch up here. So I'm going to admit I did forget that it was her birthday, but not to be insulted, I forget everybody's birthday. So hopefully that's enough right there. But of course, wish her a happy birthday. We would appreciate that. I know Ronnie would appreciate that immensely. Heading into the next item on the itinerary, and I guess this kind of plays a part in my mistake here, because clearly why we remember some things better than others, why I have a genius IQ and I can't remember Ronnie's birthday. Clearly there's quite a bit of a gap there. Maybe there's not as much of a gap there because I just, some people may be book smart and stupid in the common sense department. Or does that necessarily mean you're stupid in the common sense department because you forget somebody's birthday? Do you place the fact that maybe that person's not important? Because clearly that's not the case. You would simply say, no way. There's no way he forgot my birthday because he doesn't like me or doesn't care about me. Or maybe you do feel that way, but I could tell you that's not the case. Simply the case and point is that the amount of times maybe somebody told you that it is their birthday, the amount of time somebody plays a part. I think, honestly, we've become dependent on, say, social networking to remember people's birthdays. Because how many times, and I'm sure many of you listening can attest to this, do you forget somebody's birthday, but Facebook reminds you? Or your phone updates you that it's somebody's birthday, that if it weren't for that update, you wouldn't remember. You know, even family members for that matter. So bringing that into this, and I'll get your point of view. I want to hear what you have to say to what I just mentioned there before, Ronnie. Well, why do we remember some things better than others? Is it random? Clearly. Does emotion play a part of it? Clearly not. What about the two types of memory, short-term memory and long-term memory? Well, clearly, all of these factors play a role, and we're going to go into this a bit, but I want to hear your opening statements here and why we remember certain things better than others. Because we go back to September 11th, for instance, as an example. We remember more than likely what we did when the towers were hit, but we won't remember what we did a day before because the emphasis isn't on the emotional pain we felt on that day. We connect it with that emotional pain.
Yeah, because for us to remember the long-term things, that ends up being like a heightened state of alert. It has to make some kind of emotional impact on us. Like someone that died in our family, let's say they died, 10 years ago. We know what day it was on. We know what day that loss took place. We know where we were at when we found out the loss took place because it made that emotional impact on us. As far as birthdays and stuff, JJ, yeah, I think social media has kind of taken away our right to remember those days. But we used to have calendars, still do the same thing. But I don't think that the birthdays are the biggest thing. The anniversaries, well, I guess maybe if you're married, they are important. But
that's a good point you bring up.
Events are different.
You bring up a good point. The difference between birthdays and say an 25th wedding anniversary, right there. Mm-hmm. That you would think, well, a birthday is pretty big. You're 1 year older, but a marriage that lasted 25 years, if the husband forgets that, you can almost guarantee the wife is going to be upset. And even somebody's birthday, you have every right to be upset if somebody that you care a lot about doesn't remember your birthday. But it also plays a fact in this, and that's why I want to include. This is a great point, and that we bring up, and it's ironic that we're talking about this specific subject when I forgot it was your birthday. It's ironic because it plays really a massive role because I've known you for a couple of years. We've known each other for a couple of years, which is not a long time. But within the couple of years, we became very close, very close. We do a show together. This is the other emphasis I want to place on the fact that I forgot your birthday. There was nothing necessarily connected to you telling me it was your birthday. And I'm bringing this up because I'm not trying to make excuses for myself. I'm simply trying to state a matter of fact here that if you, of course, doesn't necessarily mean I don't care about you. It's that when you told me, say, it was your birthday the very first time when we met, very first time we talk. Oh, yeah, how old are you? How tall are you? Do you have any brothers or sisters? And this, that, and the other thing. Where do you live? Oh, yeah, what's your birthday? There. What's your birthday? When's your birthday? Right then and there. Was anything that you could connect to that moment where you told me it was your birthday, allowing me to store it in my long-term memory? Doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It's just where's the connection to that? Just that I care about you? That should be enough? Or should there be extra emphasis behind that? The connection with me remembering your birthday or me remembering an anniversary or you remembering whatever it is, a specific day out there that that occurred in our lives, whether it's September 11th or something along the lines of that. You would remember specific things because something major was connected to that specific day or that specific moment. And I think that's an important part here because as I forgot your birthday, there's clearly I didn't get to Facebook in time. Clearly, my Facebook didn't update apparently, and I think we do kind of depend on Facebook now because or social networking in general, or an update in general, because it lets you know when somebody's birthday is coming up. It won't even give you necessarily only the day it is somebody's birthday, but say a couple of days before, oh, this person's birthday's coming up. You know to it's simply back in your memory. It's simply back in your long-term memory. Or maybe it is stored in your long-term memory, but it's now in your short-term memory where you're now going to remember it because of that update. It let you know. It nudged you and said, listen, you better remember this person's birthday. I wish, I would have gotten some sort of a nudge, but I didn't among this point because clearly you haven't told me about your birthday much within the 2 years. I mean, be realistic.
No, other than the fact that ours is exactly 1 month apart.
Right. That would be a connection in itself, but it was only simply one time, I think, you've told me. So it didn't connect as much as if you were to say, if we were to talk about birthdays, on a show or something along the lines of that. It wasn't talked about enough for me to obviously remember that it was your birthday.
Now, see, I remember your birthday based on 2 reasons. Number one, it did stick in my mind because when we were on Wow, that's where we met, was that was during your birthday, on your birthday, as a matter of fact.
What's up?
So that's how I know when your birthday is.
Yeah, I was looking at the chat room right here. No, absolutely, Ronnie. It just, it's really connecting certain things with those occasions that helps you to remember. Like, for instance, if you forget where your keys are, and I had the memory guy, Dave Farrow, on my show, A Session with JJ, a great guy, really, really smart, and he remembers things because he has a specific system that helps him remember, connecting certain things with occasions. That if you forget where your keys are, the last time you put your keys or the next time you put your keys on the table, remember to connect them with an explosion. A firework is right near your keys and blow up. You remember that connection, and you remember where your keys are. That you connect certain things with whatever it is you're trying to remember, and it helps you along the way. That certain things just slip by, and I'm pretty sure you can bet on it that I'm not going to forget your birthday anymore, because now the forgetting of your birthday is connected to the next birthday you're going to have, and then the next, and the next, and the next. You understand? So it goes along with the fact that it's 1 year apart, or 1 month apart, and me forgetting it. So it's just playing a part in using it as an example on why we remember certain things better than others. Doesn't necessarily mean that I care less about you or anything. It just happened to slip the mind because, within a 2-year period, there wasn't enough emphasis placed on it. There wasn't, really. And I know that sounds wrong or sounds mean or something, but it's not. It's the truth. It's just there are other parts, there are other things that you take into account within a friendship. When you're going through a hard time with a death, I've been there. When you go to the doctor and you're nervous, I'm there for you, letting you know it's going to be okay. There are other moments within your life that are also as important as a birthday. And certain things are going to slip by. Certain things are going to slip through. And it's unfortunate. But it's learning from those moments that you won't further forget next year and the year after and the year after.
But you notice that those that have Alzheimer's, my aunt had Alzheimer's.
I probably did.
That she was, during her phases, she was able to remember those specific events, not birthdays per se, but I'm talking about events such as, she would remember 9/11. She would remember Oklahoma City bombing. She would remember where her car accident was. She could remember when her children were born. She could remember the day that her children were born and the exact time that they were born. But she couldn't tell you what she had for supper. She couldn't tell you what she was wearing. She couldn't tell you what she did the day before or the morning of. But those specific events, she was able to, because it was embedded into her memory.
Right. That's easy. And when I took psychology in college, I learned a lot about that. When people could remember. When you get older in Alzheimer's, patients tend to remember things that occurred years back, 10, 20, 30 years back, but they can't remember they can't remember what they did 5 minutes ago. And it all has to do with the allocation of resources within their long-term memory. And then versus their short-term memory, whereas usually within their short-term memory, any information that's stored within 5 minutes is moved into your long-term memory for you to remember say after 30 seconds or after 40 seconds, et cetera, et cetera. That's not occurring with these patients. Their long-term memory is intact. They can remember what they did 30 years ago. Their long-term memory is not affected. Their short-term memory is affected. That's what they're studying. That's why the brain is such a massive study for scientists. It's very difficult to study the brain. They're learning every day, new things every day about the brain. But that much is known about those that have Alzheimer's, that tend to remember things that happened 30 years ago. All has to do with the comparison between their short-term memory and their long-term memory. And that plays the case for people that may forget things from 5-10 minutes ago, even if you don't have Alzheimer's, and you remember things from 10 years ago, because it's embedded in your long-term memory. That's what your long-term memory is all for. That's what it's for, after all.
But it's interesting when you think about the Alzheimer patients, because I know when I was doing my clinicals in the nursing home, that they would equate you. They have some form of their short-term memory because you may look like somebody that they know from the past, and so they equate that as being you. But then you come back in the next day, they still know who you are. They remember who you are, so you're kind of developing that new impact zone.
Right.
They're trying to start a new impact zone, but drugs play a heavy burden with those that have Alzheimer's too.
True.
That the memory part is just not there. There's no recycling. Right. And I think that when they're in the nursing home, they lose that because they lose their benefits of moving around. So the brain kind of, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
They don't move around. They're not out there being exercised. There's no social skills involved in the nursing home. All of this stuff is just lost. And those that are kept at home, that are hospice or they're in-home patients that actually are still with their families and so forth, maintain a better memory than those that are actually in the nursing home.
Right. And it's just because remembering certain things, and I go back to birthdays and just occasions in general, it's more than just social media. There are websites that will remind you when a special occasion's coming up. And we've become dependent. It's just like becoming dependent on information at our fingertips. It's as before the internet was around. If you didn't know something, you more than likely had to go to the library to find it out. So were you more inclined to hope you remember whatever it is you're retaining, whatever it is you're reading before the internet came around, because you don't have ready access to that information. Whereas now, if you forget something, you can simply go on the internet and look it up. It's there for you. So you don't have to worry about it. So we've become dependent on using another tool to think for us. And in many cases, social networking in terms of birthdays, clearly it's affected me quite a bit. I depend on Facebook for birthday updates. Even the closest people, Ronnie, my best friends. My friends, I forgot their birthdays. Does that mean I don't like them? I don't care about them? Does that show my true colors, that I really don't care about those people? Or have I just become dependent on another tool to update me? Well, those of you listening can make that decision. And I think Ronnie knows deep down inside how I really feel about her, not simply based on me forgetting her birthday. But happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope you have a great day. It's your day. You deserve to have a great day. And I'm sure you're definitely setting the stage for maybe a bit of partying, or are you going to play it safe and just go, the laid-back route? You're just going to relax on your day?
I'm probably going to relax on my day because it is, beginning of the week. Now, tomorrow would have been like a Saturday.
I love relaxing. I can't tell you the last time I went all out on my birthday, Ronnie. I'm serious. I can't tell you. I would rather. Now, I'm not saying a party here and there's not bad or anything, but I do enjoy hanging out and just relaxing and on my birthday. I do.
The last time I think that I really went out there and party hardy was when I just turned 21.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't since then.
You know what? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's your day. You deserve to relax and lay back and relax. Some people feel that, it's just another day. It's your birthday. But I truly believe it's your day. You have you should relax. You should kick back and relax on your day. You really should. You should take a load off. And seeing how important the show is, doing a show on your birthday, I'm sure that means a lot to you too. And, we're all there for you. And, again, I do apologize. It was just a situation that simply got through. But you know how much you mean to me, Ronnie. So
I know.
So you'll have quite a day, I'm sure, and we look forward to, of course, the next episode because we have arrived at the end of the program. But wanted, of course, get the fact that it is Ronnie's birthday right now, June 27th, and wish her a happy birthday. You're a friend of hers on Facebook, or if you're following her on Twitter, wish her a happy birthday. She'll like that, definitely, and so forth. But what do you say, Ronnie, we head into the past? We take a time machine, for those of you that are new to the program. We take a time machine into the past, a past discussion that Ronnie and I have, went into. And, you never know what the time machine is going to, bring up. You never know what the time machine is going to, what episode it's going to go back to. That's kind of the surprising part. But we always look forward to what it's going to what it's going to find, what it's going to arrive on. So what do you say we go into the past? Do you want to, Ronnie?
Oh, I want to push the button too.
You want to push the button? See, the thing is, it's virtual. So how are you going to get over here to push the button? You'll have to you'll have to virtually push the button, and you'll have to virtually push the button. So you're going to have to tell me when to go push it, and then I can push the button. So how about I tell you, I'll count down, and then you push it, and then you can virtually push the button. You want to do that?
Gotcha.
All right, here we go, folks. Here, Blast from the Past for episode number 287, right here on the Voices on the Net Network. In 3, 2, 1. Push it, Ronnie.
Gotcha.
He pushes it. I sense a war starting here. Are we going to have a little debate between a male versus a female here? We've had quite a few of those before, but
we have.
But the fact is, I've got plenty of ammo to back myself up, my fellow males up here, but I want to hear what you have to say here when it comes to saying I love you. And for me, myself, I think females and males have a different mindset when it comes to that. Some people say a female may be more mature, so they have the will to hold it back, where a male may be less mature in that category because they want to make sure the female is all to them, themselves. They want to make sure that I love you solidifies their relationship. Where do you stand with that and the whole I love you thing?
I think that females, we say it, although I think that more often females say it. I think it just depends on what point in the relationship they are at,
right,
compared to the males that you don't know. Sometimes it's hard to take when they say it. Is it at the point that they're becoming intimate, or maybe the guy wants to become intimate? So it's kind of hard for the female to kind of figure that out. So I think it's the female that actually starts out with that, because females are supposed to be more mature, I think, in that area of relationships, and we were always looking for a relationship. Guys, on the other hand, I think is the opposite. I don't know if a guy actually says he loves somebody until particular moments in the relationship. I don't know if he says it exactly back to you at a certain point in time in the relationship.
Yeah.
What is the best time? Is it 3 months, 6 months? Is it a year? When do you know? I don't know.
Well, you've got to throw other things into the equation too. Not only time period, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, or more than a year. You've got to throw in the environment, of course, because that also plays a major role. Where are you at the time where you're about to say those 3 words to somebody that you clearly love? Just because you haven't said those words doesn't mean you don't love each other. You could have loved each other for the last couple of months, and then 2 months later you say it. Somebody says it, whether it's the male or the female. It just so happens you didn't want to rush into it. That's the thing with I love you. Yeah. People don't know when to say it because they don't want to turn the other person off. Believe it or not, as magical those 3 words are, it can turn people off if it's stated too quickly. So even as magical as those 3 words are, you can lose the one that you are saying I love you to. Believe it or not. It's sad. I absolutely understand that. But many of us have dealt with that before. It is, and that's why people hold back.
Yeah, I guess, and I'm the type of person that would hold back
on
that issue. So I'll follow all the way into the female category because I kind of sit back and wait. But you could be in love with somebody for a long period of time and not say a single word, but you can show it to each other. You just kind of wait because you're afraid to say. You don't know if you're going to be rejected. You don't know you don't want to put your heart completely out there, and then someone says, "Well, I really don't love you. I'm just in it for such and such, and love is not one of them." And then you feel like a fool.
Yeah. I just think, personally, with me and my past relationships that I've went through. You know, Ronnie, back when we talked about that, I remember how you remember we were using different backing sounds, backing music for those discussions, and we transitioned into the really sad one I heard at the end there, right at the end of that blast from the past. Yeah, remember that one graciously. And if you want to check out all of the episodes all of the episodes of Take Two and every other show on the network, all you need to do is go to www.vonthenet.com to check them all out. All right, that's all the time we have for this 287th episode of the show. We'll be back for the next one as we continue our countdown to the 300th episode of the show. We have to, of course, surpass the 29th mini milestone before we get to the next major one, but we'll do them all for you. Until then, we sadly have to say so long for now. Take care. Much love to you all. Again, happy birthday, Ronnie. Have a great, great day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.